All right, here we go. We live. All right, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Livewell here at Fish North Georgia. We're so glad you're spending some time with us. If you're watching on YouTube right now, hey, we appreciate you. And if you're watching at a later date, we love you as well. So, got a great show in store for you tonight, especially for you Allatoona guys. Got a couple of hammers right here. I'm gonna see how much information I can get out of them tonight. We'll see what they give up. So we got Mr. Bill Payne in the house. Everybody knows about Mr. Payne right there. He's actually been on our show a time or two. This time I will not make you recite any lyrics. You remember the last time you was here?
It'd probably be a good time.
The last time you was here. You remember what you did last time?
Well, I remember what it was, but I didn't know what I was doing.
I made him read Rod Stewart's "If You Want My Body" thing like that.
Yeah.
I won't do that to you tonight. And then, of course, to my right, I've got Mr. Stephen Barday. So I'm going to see what I can get out of them tonight, guys. You guys send the questions in the comment section. We're going to see if we can get some information that will help you be a better angler. But let's take care of some business first. Let's talk about our fine sponsors. Up number one is Opson Fluorocarbon Line. Guys, listen, y'all know in these highland reservoirs how important a good fluorocarbon is. Opson's got this new product out there. I actually fished with it last weekend. I ran it over every single rock in Bald Ridge Marina down on Lake Lanier. No fray whatsoever. I was very impressed with the line. You can type in FNG on their website and get 20% off, or you can wait for the question of the week and you can get a chance to answer the question and get $50 off at OpsonUSA.com. So appreciate Opson. And the next one is Trent Palmer and the guys at Sonar Pros. Listen, if you want your electronics installed correctly, take it where the pros do. Trent and the guys will do you an absolutely upstanding job. First class, give them a call, 770-530-4505, by appointment only. All right, so make sure you hit them guys up. And, of course, now we got Kevin Underwood with Lip Sticker Fishing. Guys, we see the pictures week in and week out of what Kevin does for his clients on Lake Lanier. Giant spotted bass. He puts them on there consistently. You guys need to book a trip with him. You can reach out to, I think it's am I right here? www.lipstickerfishing.com.
Correct.
Or you can reach out to on Facebook. And I'm telling you, I've been with him. Book a trip. Very good with the sonar. You'll learn a lot. And then we've got Evolve Fishing Rod Sleeves. Now, they came on last week. I believe, Mr. Barday, you were watching last week, and your comment was they're legit.
Yeah.
It is absolutely the best rod sleeve I've ever used. Hey, they float. They got the little lanyard that hooks up to your reel so they won't fly off. And they also got the protective ending so your rod tip will not get broke. So you can check them out at www.evolve.com. So definitely appreciate those guys. If you're into the kayaks and the paddle sport game, go see our friends at Festive Waters over off Highway 369. Again, they can rig your fishing kayak or any of your other accessories, whatever you want. Those guys have it. They also do rentals. Check them out, www.festivewaters.com. And then, as you can see right over my back corner here, Turner Tire in Jasper, Georgia. Family owned. They fish. Good people will treat you right. If you need a new set of tires, that is the place to go around here. Give Brock and them a call at 706-253-3339. Tell them the guys at Fish North Georgia sent you. And what we got next? Did I get everybody except for my favorite right here?
Absolutely.
I got it. All right, guys. So listen, every week you hear me talk about Etowah Beer, Mead, and Wine in Dahlonega, Georgia. Tonight I'm partaking of the Cane Break, which is a black currant mead. Some of the people in the audience had some tastings of their other offerings, and everybody loves it. Again, mead, you can ship it. So if you're not going to be in the Dahlonega area, hey, go online. Check out Etowah Beer, Mead, and Wine, or it's Mead, Beer, and Wine. Which one did I say first? I always get there backwards, but you go to Etowah. You can check them out on Facebook. You can order and have it shipped to your house. So absolutely some tasty stuff. You liked it?
Yeah, it was good.
You tried it. It was good.
Yeah.
Which one did you try? You tried the Granny Smith?
Yeah.
The Granny Smith? Does it get a Barday thumbs up?
Yep, Barday thumbs up.
A Barday thumbs up.
That's right.
That's going to be the new term. So I got blinker fish from Driscoll.
Yeah.
And then what did we get last week from Will? We got something, some saying we'll remember it, but it's, Barday thumbs up.
There you go.
From now on, that's going to be our seal of approval.
Carries a lot of weight.
Carries a lot of weight right there. All right, guys. So look, you guys in the comments section. Once I introduced on Facebook the other day that I was going to have Bill in the audience, or in the crowd, in the audience. I can't talk now all of a sudden. We were doing good before the show started. Now I got a microphone and I'm the one that can't speak. When I announced that Bill was going to be on the show, a lot of you guys got excited. And then when I announced that Stephen was going to be joining him, I started getting questions. hey, ask Stephen this, ask Stephen that, ask Bill this, ask Bill that. You guys put it in the comment section so that they can read it. And they're like, we're going to jump on it right now. Casey Malcolm. All right, Bill, I'm going to start off with you. We're going to jump right into it. What's your go-to bait for Allatoona for wintertime bass fishing?
Crankbait, crankbait, crankbait.
Crankbait. What you targeting with that crankbait?
Depth wise, 2 to 12 feet, rocks, stumps, brush, fish.
Fish. What about you, Barday?
Same thing. Crankbait and a jig.
And what are you targeting? Same thing that he's doing?
Same thing.
So do I just need to ask Bill all night what he's doing? He's going to copy him?
I just do what Bill
He
does.
just does what Bill. Well, that's what I would do. That sounds like a smart man. So, you know, one of the things that we Derek O wants to know: bait fish or crawl colored crank?
Not bait fish.
Not bait fish.
Stained water, chartreuse, red, orange, crawfish, pink, anything but translucent bait fish colors.
Okay. What's your favorite crankbait to throw?
Rock crawler, which there's 10 different ones, but I like the rock crawler family of baits, and I like my old time Rebel humpies.
Okay. All right. What about you?
I like the rock crawler, Spro.
Like
Spro
all-
square bills are good.
You like the Little John?
Yeah, Little Johns are good.
I threw a Little John actually for the first time last Saturday on Lanier. I was impressed with it.
Yeah.
I'm a rock crawler guy, but I threw the Little John, and I was like, good friend Jonathan Farmer said, listen, you got to try you got to try it. He did real well in the ABA tournament or the GBFL, whichever one. And it was a reddish color. Now, either one of you guys can answer this. Orange or red? Which one carries a little more weight this time of year? I'll let you answer that first.
According to the watercolor,
Yeah?
if it's dirtier water, I go more towards red. If it's got a little clarity to it, I'll throw the orange a little better.
Throw the orange. What about you?
I alternate between reds and chartreuse, and some days one's better than the other. Some of the crankbaits have red and orange.
Yeah.
Or they have chartreuse and orange, but just something that's got flash and highlights to it.
Yeah, what would make you choose one with chartreuse?
The fish are biting it.
Okay, good enough answer. That works. So
Now I alternate, and some days it seems like
Yeah.
they might prefer one over the other, but I never know
yeah.
which.
Okay. Do you got a favorite though that you start off the day with? Like, would you start with a red or orange first? We're inquiring minds want to know.
People overthink fishing in general, and I use the one that I've got tied on, and then if I just get a wild hair to say, I think I'm gonna try the chartreuse one because I've been throwing the red. Let me just see if that works. And sometimes they both work, and sometimes one's better than the other. And
Right.
the truth of the matter is sometimes neither one of them works. So
Yeah, I got you. So Matthew Jones wants to know, how do you change your approach when Allatoona gets really muddy? Now, again, for those that don't know about Allatoona, it's a lake that in the wintertime, they start late fall, early winter, they draw it down. And they draw it down a lot.
17 feet.
17 feet. So it goes to about, from a full pool to about 2/3 or even maybe half as full as it
It goes
normally
from
is.
840 to 823 is what they shoot for every year.
That's the water level right there. Yeah. Okay. And lots of times we get these winter rains because that's why they draw it down, correct? And that's the reason.
yeah, flood control.
Flood control. You get the Etowah River. And what's the other ones coming into?
Oostanala,
Oostanala.
going into Rome.
Yeah. They're muddy. So that lake gets stained up a lot. So how do you change your approach when it gets muddy?
I'm going to fish basically 10 feet or less. When it's muddy, I think it's a waste of time to fish deep. The fish that are biting, the fish you're going to catch, they're going to be in less than 10 feet of water.
Okay. All right. What about you?
Same thing. You stay shallow.
Stay shallow. Now, I don't get out on Allatoona near as much as Lanier, and I know a lot more about what's going on Lanier. A lot of the tournaments this year on Lanier were 15 foot or less. Same thing on Allatoona?
I'd say so. There's a lot of them with the live scope. There's a lot more deep fish being caught, not as deep as Lanier.
Yeah.
I don't think they get as deep on Allatoona as they do Lanier. So that the live scope, there's a lot more deep fish caught, but still, especially in the wintertime, it's 15 feet or less.
So how do you think the bluebacks, now that bluebacks are in it, for forever they said there's no bluebacks in Allatoona. There's bluebacks in Allatoona. How do you think that's changed the fishing over the last, I guess it's been about 2 years that people are realizing they're there.
I hadn't figured it out yet.
You had.
Bill figured it out some, but I hadn't figured it out yet. But it has made a difference in the size of the fish.
Yeah, they look better.
We're seeing, yeah, especially the spots.
Yeah. Used to say there was an Allatoona special, 12-inch, 14-inch fish. But even now when you catch a 12-inch fish, it's got a healthy gut on it. So you can see the difference. How have the bluebacks changed Lake Allatoona?
Well, I think it's more evident in warmer weather. I can't really tell the difference in wintertime, muddy water, whatever. It's the same as it's been for the last 40 plus years that I know about. But in the summer, after the spawn, it's definitely different. You know, it used to be in the daytime through the summer. Most of us wouldn't even trouble with trying to go out in the daytime. I mean, you could catch a few on drop shot, shaky head out on deep break lines, 25 or 30 feet. But if I went, I would just be hoping to get a few bites. Now, with bluebacks, you know, you're getting top water bites all throughout the day, midday, 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
You're getting, they're chasing, they're schooled up over brush. It's just the same way it became at Carter's. Suddenly you begin to get these top water bites in the bright sun, midday, a lot of chasing going on. It's just a different lake in the summertime for sure. And I think the daytime bite, numbers wise at least, and sometimes size wise too, was actually a lot better than most of the night bite, really.
I believe it hurt the night bite. Because I believe they fed all day, and then we'd get out there in the night tournaments, and it would be slower than usual.
Slower than what you had experienced in the past.
Yeah. But it's just like he said, it's just like Lanier was 20, 25 years ago when they first started showing up here, and you could come out there and throw a Sammy over a hump and catch 4-pounders. That's the way Allatoona is doing now. It's just 20 years behind.
That's okay, as long as he gets there. So Derek O, I think this is a question for Bill. So you were talking about the muddy water now. So you're not actively looking for the clearest water. Like if you went out right now and the creeks and the rivers were stained, would you concentrate there with your crankbait, or would you try to find the clear water?
No, I think the winning, if you're talking about tournament fishing, I think the winning bags are always going to come out of dirty water right now.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago, I did search for some clear water because the fellow fishing with me wanted to try to catch some swim bait fish, Ned rig fish, and we did. We actually found one little creek that it wasn't clear, but it was clearer than out on the main lake, and we're able to catch a few, but not the size that you it's not that all the ones I catch in dirty water are big ones, because they're not, but you catch a few, and that's the money, I guess, technique. Stay in the mud, stay shallow.
Okay. Does Allatoona have a ditch bite like Lanier in the wintertime?
It does, and I know some people that's done it and made it work. I ain't been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I've tried, but
how do you try? Just what has not worked?
I'm fairly new to the live scoping thing, but seeing fish and getting them to bite, you know, the swim bait thing and stuff like that, I'm not very patient. Of course, I like to be shallow this time of year, so I might try it for 30, 45 minutes and then hell with this, I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, let's go do that. What about you?
Well, for me, there is a ditch bite, but it's not like at Lake Lanier. It's not where you can go back early, shallow in front of docks and catch them, and then the sun comes up and they start moving back out. What I find is they're more bait related than anything. Yeah. And you can be in a creek channel in 50 feet of water and jig a spoon or something and catch some, but that's no different than it is in the lake fall. There may be some other differences, but I just don't see it like I think Lanier is, or even like Carter's Lake is.
Yeah.
But definitely they are following. If there's bait around, they are following it up. You know, we don't have the timber edges like Lanier does, where right inside that. You can find them going up in ditches and stuff, but I think it's different. But
So one of the big techniques on Lake Lanier for the ditch bite is to throw, you can do it on a ball head jig. We make that ditch digger. You can throw a underspin, but to chunk it all the way up the creek, let it go all the way down to the bottom into the ditch, and then slow roll it. Now, is that kind of bite present on Allatoona at all, or is it just a different game altogether?
not for me, but I wouldn't say it's not present.
Yeah. You tried anything like that?
A little bit, but not much. I know some people's made it work.
That makes it work.
If I had Bill's patience, I could do it.
I
Bill
understand
can sit out
that.
there and grind on it like that till he makes it work, and I can't.
You would consider yourself a power guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I know you're willing to throw a Ned rig at
We'll
times.
throw
You'll
finesse,
throw it, you will, but you're a
whatever it
power
takes,
guy at
yeah.
heart. And you would be more of a finesse guy than you would say a power guy, or do I have you wrong? Or you just do everything?
No, I try to be versatile. I mean, but I like finesse fishing. I like being out deep, and I would say I'm more of an offshore fisherman than a finesse fisherman, whether it's power or not. But
Right.
like in the muddy water conditions, I'm going to be fishing shallow. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know how I define myself as when it goes to that. I try not to. I try to be versatile.
You're a chameleon. You can fit in anywhere. That's what we're going to say. So got a question for you specifically, Bill. Carter's question for Mr. Payne. What is the dominant forage / shad in Carter's now? Threadfin, alewife, gizzard, or spot tails? And I'll tell you that the striper guys that have been on our show will say alewife.
Well, there's more alewives in the lake than there is anything else. There's still shad in the lake, and I'm not sure how many blueback are there.
Right. I never hear anybody talking about the blueback up there.
There have been,
Yeah.
but as far as what the health of that population is, I do not know.
Yeah. I will say that Jeremy Mullinax has been on the show a couple of times, and they complain about too much bait being in Carter's. But I know the alewife, that's the one that they are harping on. That's a cousin of the blueback, I think. Very similar fish, but might go a little deeper.
They do. What I've, this is just my experience. Others might be able to say something different, but really up until last year, probably for the last 4 years, actually the bait where I have caught fish got deeper every year.
Yeah.
To where we were actually catching some in 80 and 90 feet. And because it just got, we started out catching them in 40 and 50, and then it just seemed like every year a little deeper, a little deeper.
Yeah.
And the ratio of bait to fish is all out of whack now. Used to never catch any little ones out in the deep creek channels. Now you may catch a 6, 8 incher. You might catch a 4-pounder. It used to be all big fish, but it's not that way anymore.
Just kind of messed it up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been told that Carter's does not have a thermocline. Is that true or not? Okay, good. I'm glad. Correct me on that.
In the summer, you can see it on your graph.
Can
easily.
you?
Yeah.
I've had guys tell me that there's no thermocline on Carter's because they're always pumping back, pumping in, and it doesn't have time to set up. But you're on that lake a lot, so there is a thermocline in the summer.
Well, I notice it more at night in the summer than any other time.
Okay.
Yeah, I can say the same thing for Allatoona. That's when you notice it. That's when you can see it on your graph.
At night in the summertime, or just during the summertime?
Yeah.
There have been quite a few guys that have been on this show that says Carter's has no thermocline. And I mean, I don't know. I don't fish up there that much.
I think that it does.
Okay, well, good. Hey, listen, you are the expert. We're not going to go with mine.
That's debatable, but
no, you are the expert. Don't sell yourself short. He is, ain't he?
Yeah,
he is.
No doubt.
He's the man. That's the man right there. Alex, pull up Alex's question right there. And guys, hey, listen, I know a lot of you guys are listening, but if you got a question, this is the time to throw it out there. How did you target fish at night during the summer with bluebacks? Has it changed since the bluebacks? Is this the night guy? You the night guy? What?
Yeah, but we didn't notice a whole lot of different at night other than it seemed like early in the evening they didn't bite as well, and I think that's because they fed all day.
Right. So you think the amount of bait.
But we do the same thing at night that we've always done.
Chunking the
same
spinner baits,
jigs. Drop shot, Texas rig, jigs,
Drop shot at night.
crankbaits, anything.
Anything. So nothing changed.
Yeah, they don't. They eat the same stuff.
Hey, listen. You know, you talk summertime night fishing. Everybody thinks you got to be throwing a
Yep.
dark crankbait or
You got to throw
or
a dark
big spinner.
crankbait, but does the shad change color at night?
Okay, so that I've posed this
hit the other
question.
just as good.
I posed this question, and Mike Shepard and them, Georgia Blade Products, we've got them here in the store. I ordered some night spinner baits. Well, they make one that's basically, it's not exactly white, but it is a light colored. And we've had this conversation before. Everybody thinks you've got to throw black at night. But just like you said, the fish do not change color.
No, shad don't change color.
Yeah. So why do you think everybody feels like they got to throw
I don't know,
black?
but we've caught them back in the 80s. We'd catch them on black shad culprit worms at night.
Yeah.
That's what everybody threw.
Yeah.
But for some reason they bite it, but they'll bite other stuff too. I don't think they know the difference.
But if you were going to throw a spinner bait right now,
It's going to be a Picasso.
I know it's going to be a Picasso. I was waiting for one of you to
It's
say
going to be that Night
Picasso.
Pro, and it's black and blue.
Black and
Or
blue.
purple.
Or purple. Okay. What about you at night? What you throwing at night?
I don't know if I've got good sense about the night fishing, but I'm going to throw as soon as it gets dark, I'm going to throw a spinner bait, and I'm not going to put it down until the last cast. And it's been good to me over the years.
Yeah.
I will say it's not as good to me the last few years as it once was. It was deadly killer. Picasso took my blade, call it the Rumbler. It's a hybrid Indiana. That's my favorite, but I do know some nights the Colorado will beat it. But
yeah,
overall, it's a little more subtle, and I've caught so many fish on it. It'll be my favorite forever.
Yeah, ever. What colors you throwing?
Anything dark.
You stay with the
I
dark.
don't care if it's black and red, purple, black and purple, black.
Gotcha. You're going to stay with that dark.
Dark. You want a dark silhouette at night.
What about spoon color? Because I know some companies have a black one. They'll have a dark brass colored, or, you know, what I call a nickel, but with a little bit of shade on it. So it's not the bright nickel. Does it matter about spoon color at all?
My personal, I only use 3. I use a silver, a gold, or a white.
Mm-hmm.
And I think silver's good in the bright sun. I think gold is better in cloudy weather, and I think white is better in less than clear water.
Right. And then at night, your blade is it black, or does it matter?
I don't think it matters, but I want a dark one. I want a black one.
You like it? Just a confidence
red
thing?
one. Just
okay.
I don't even think they're seeing that, but
yeah,
creature of habit.
Creature of habit. All right. Well, either of these legends, how you like that?
Yeah,
Legends.
not me.
Bullshit. Don't sell yourself short. Will either of these legends want to focus on forward-facing sonar? We talk about it every week. Some people love it. Some people don't. You say you're just getting used to it, starting to learn it. You've used it for a while. Okay. What's your take on forward-facing sonar?
By now, I can't live without it. I mean, I've not to try to toot my own horn, but I've always kind of been on the leading edge of whatever's happening electronics wise. I had one of the first side imaging units that Hummingbird came out with, down imaging. I wasn't as quick to jump on forward facing sonar, but once I've had it, and I don't want to say I've mastered it, but there's always somebody better no matter what you do. But I like it. I don't like being in a boat without it. I use it a lot. I catch fish every day on it.
Mm-hmm.
Even, to me, the latest frontier on forward-facing sonar is we're beginning to learn how to catch them even shallow on it.
Yeah, doing that perspective mode?
No.
You don't use the perspective?
No, I don't even have a perspective mount. I only want it one way, forward.
Okay.
And it's invaluable. Now, whether it's fair or not, or whether it's this or that, I don't care about all that. But I know it helps catch fish, and I know that it helps me put people on fish, and that's my job. And it doesn't I'm not saying because I've got it and that I go out and catch them, the biggest ones every day and all that. But just as far as catching fish, it's invaluable.
Well, let me ask you this. How did, the forward-facing sonar change the way you fish? What was Bill Payne like before forward-facing sonar and then after?
I think if you ask people like Kevin Van Dam and the people that are the best in the business, they're all, one of the most interesting things that they say is, gosh, we used to think it was this way and that you would pull up and not get bites. So you say they're not here. Well, they're always here. They don't always bite. You didn't know how many times 4 or 5 fish followed your lure to the boat. You just thought, man, this is the Dead Sea. I'm not catching anything.
Right.
But now that you've got eyes underwater, you see how they react to the bait. One of the most important things for me is probably if I see a few fish out there on bottom 60 feet away on a break line. Used to, I'd let my lure tell me if they were there, and if I didn't get a bite in a cast or two, I was gone. Now, if I see 3 or 4 fish bubbling around on bottom out there, I'll make a few extra casts there and focus on that, and many times I'll catch one of them. Whereas used to, I might be gone or down the bank or whatever.
Right.
I know where to concentrate my casts, and that's the main thing. Be more efficient.
Okay. All right, Barday. You're kind of newer to that game.
The biggest thing for me, the biggest change using it is finding structure. I don't look for fish as much. I mean, you pull up on a point where there's a brush pile and you're dead on the brush pile in the first cast. The first time I ever used it in a tournament, the first fish I seen on it, I caught a 4-pound spot, and we just had blasted off on a Monday night. And I said, we're going to win this tournament. I sat there and watched fish all night long, and we ended up with 3 fish that night.
Yeah.
It'll spin you out when you get to seeing those fish and you know they're there. But you learn that if they don't bite, you can't make them bite.
Do you think in a tournament, let's take the Randy Blockett argument that he's talking about. It's spotlighting fish. It's not fair. What do you think about that?
Anything they come up with that makes it better is fair.
You're all for it.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I see with the old school stuff and the power fishing and shallow, and like this time of year, I'll probably use it more in the summertime than I do in the wintertime. This time of year, I'm shallow and I don't look at mine much.
Yeah, that makes sense. You throw that crankbait, you're
throwing
crankbait,
flipping a jig, throwing a spinnerbait, moving.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I omitted. I did. I think he brought up the key point. What I tell people on the boat, seeing fish on it and trying to cast to them and catch them is a lot of fun, but that's not the number one value of forward-facing sonar. It's just what he said. It's seeing the structure, seeing where the rock veins run out. It's seeing the stump. It's seeing the brush pile. It's directing your cast right to it. Even when you have a waypoint, and I've got tons of them, it's not as easy to see a waypoint on a map and cast to it and get it right in it. You might have to make 2 or 3 casts around it to get in it. With forward-facing sonar, you know exactly where to cast.
Yeah.
That's the true value of it most of the time.
And it's 2 different perspectives too, because Bill guiding and me fishing tournaments, I'm looking for the 5 biggest. He's looking to put somebody on a mess of fish to catch a bunch of fish.
Right.
So it's a whole different. I mean, I don't have much time to play with it during a tournament, but it helps. We've caught a lot of fish using it.
Yeah.
Still learning it.
So what do you think about, though, on the professional level? Like on your elites, your MLF?
Well, it is kind of boring to watch them stare at the screen all day.
It is boring as hell.
But
I hate it.
It's part of it.
It is part of it. It's not going away. There's too much money involved.
Oh, ain't no doubt.
I mean, everybody's like wanting to ban it and all that. No,
I've
not
got a
that dollar.
perspective on that. I know that's what everybody says. But, But if they'll, Hummingbird's kind of got a stranglehold on Bassmaster being a big sponsor. But if they'll get that picture-in-a-picture deal.
Yes.
And they'll get the guys to talk about it a little more, it'll be very entertaining and educational to see how they see it and what they do. But until they do that, if they're just looking at a guy's back and he's like this, that's no good. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
if they
some of
wanna
the
show
stuff
what
that's out
really
now, they're
doing,
starting to show the picture down in the lower screen, so you can kind of ride along with
Doesn't
the
the
professional.
NPFL do that?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Mills videos, he does that
Emil
too, where
does a
it
good
shows-
job.
yeah,
And I think that is true from an entertainment value. As somebody sitting on the couch watching somebody else fish, that would be far superior to see what they're actually looking at as opposed to just looking at their backside, looking at it.
and that's good. But that's probably never going to be as much fun as watching somebody flip in a bush and jack a 6-pounder
Oh, yeah.
out,
No, I agree.
or throw a frog on a mat and see
Yeah.
a big blow up.
Yeah.
It's not as entertaining as that, and it probably never will be.
Yeah. But that's just the way we're going with it right now. Pull up a couple comments. There's a question up above those just a little bit right there. It's about largemouth bass. Go up one more, I believe. Okay, right there. Both of you guys. Have y'all noticed the largemouth making a comeback in Allatoona over the last year? And I will say this, just being in the shop, talking to people, watching our social media, to me it seems like, at least over the past year or two, Allatoona has put out some big largemouth. Now, I can't tell you, I've seen a couple on Lanier, but I hear more about big largemouth from Allatoona than I do Lanier, at least in people talking about it. But as far as the species as a whole, what do you think?
I think Stephen ought to answer that.
You had a
because
big-
he catches
Ain't that
about
what you
10
had?
to my 1.
Yeah, ain't that what you was
probably.
holding up when you
Yeah.
sent that picture?
And they stocked, and I don't know how many years ago, they stocked 250,000 a year for 4 years, and they weren't. DNR claimed it wasn't the F1s, it was the Georgia strain, and they claim you want the Georgia strain because that's where the world record come from. I disagree, but the F1 will grow faster. But it's definitely made a difference. And when they started stocking those fish, we'd go down the bank and catch 10, and they'd all be identical 10-inch fish. And you could tell they were the stockers, and they're built different than Allatoona largemouth. Allatoona largemouth long and skinny, and these fish are short and fat. I don't think all these, there hadn't been time enough for all these big fish, these 8, 9s, 10s, 11s that we've been seeing last couple of years. They hadn't had time to get that big, but
Right.
we are seeing more big largemouth.
Did you know that picture you put on the group page, I chose as the picture of the week?
Really?
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't tell anybody. I was supposed to announce the winner of that. And I actually said, you know what? Not only are you good looking, but you had a big fish.
Yeah, I
right
had a
there.
good photographer with me too.
Was that who was taking the
That's
picture
right.
over there?
She's a good
Well, you
photographer.
should let her hold the fish.
I look better.
No, I disagree. I disagree with that. But no, seriously, and you caught that on Allatoona.
Caught on out there.
And that's why I was looking at, there was a lot of great pictures. And I picked that one, and I didn't tell you, but I picked that one because it was Allatoona. Big, nice wintertime largemouth. What did it end up weighing?
I never weighed it. I didn't
What
have
do you
to-
think it weighed?
It was over 6.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 6 and 7. It was healthy.
And the reason that I picked that was because it was a largemouth from Allatoona. Not because I like you or anything, but
And it
actually
was-
I like the fact that you were holding up a big largemouth from Allatoona.
And it was we pulled up to a place where I thought they'd be. It was in 3 foot of water, and it hit on the first cast.
There you go.
And they
So
were
there you go.
stacked. And then
You don't win nothing though.
and then Sunday in the tournament, nothing.
Nothing. There's no prize there. It's just recognition.
That's right.
Right.
So as long as you know you won this week,
Yeah.
which means you can't win next week.
So I went out Thursday, run some Bill Payne stuff, some Bill Payne patterns, and probably had 15 and a half, 16 pounds.
Uh-huh.
Went out Friday, total different part of the lake, total different pattern, and probably had the same thing. So
Okay.
Sunday we had to decide, and it didn't work.
So what is the Bill Payne pattern?
It's just something we talked about. I can't. give
No,
away-
listen, I got to ask.
I can't give away
What
his
is the Bill
information.
Payne pattern?
It was just a pattern he's been using.
Bill, what's the Bill Payne pattern? I'm gonna see if I can get it out of you guys.
I said I'd answer anything.
You
but
did say that.
I don't want to impact others, but
Barday's okay. He can go
Oh.
find his own fish.
well, I know he does.
He does. That's what I'm
He
saying.
doesn't need help from me.
I got told. I said, you ain't gonna get it out of Barday, so I'm gonna get it out of you.
Well,
But you still
it's offshore crankbait.
offshore
pattern.
crankbait. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. All right.
let's just say that it's
Yeah.
definitely offshore
Fair enough.
crankbait pattern. Maybe slightly deeper, but
That's fair enough.
Fishing around brush and
Okay. That's
Other cover.
That's
Brush,
fair
rock,
enough.
stumps, same thing.
okay. Y'all both smiling. I don't know if you're full of it or not, but I'm
So
gonna go
that's
with
one
it.
thing
It's the
fishing with
honest
Bill.
truth.
That's honestly okay.
Me and Bill fish a lot different. We have a good time fishing together. And we both learn something every time we go because we fish so much different. But one of the things that and the forward-facing sonar has done with me is I never fished. I fished offshore at Gunnersville, Chickamauga, Eufaula, Kentucky Lake. Never fished offshore on Allatoona. Very seldom. And fishing with Bill, and that's exactly what it is. It's an offshore crankbait.
Okay, just answer me this question: are the bluebacks what led to the Bill Payne pattern?
No.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with bluebacks or anything like that.
No, it's been forever. It's
Okay,
got to do
good.
with cover
It has to do with cover. That's
and the right target depth.
fair enough. Fair enough, right there. Let's see. What's the next question we got right there? Michael Temple's up top, right there. Oh, couple questions up above that. Let's go up to Stephen Dubberly, right there. How dirty is too dirty to go shallow?
Never except, I mean, the only exception of that's when it's fresh, cold, muddy runoff that's red, teeming with red particles in it, and it's get away from that. Get
Okay.
it where it's
Yeah.
mixed in. Wait 2 or 3 days.
That was my
let
next
it
question.
settle in.
Couple days.
Let it mix, and then after that, the dirtier the better.
Game on.
The dirtier, the shallower, the dirtier, the more aggressive they'll be while up against hard cover.
If it's orange, real orange, and it's fresh mud, I steer clear of it.
Yeah.
If it's mixing, that's just now getting there, I steer clear of it. Once it settles down, I don't think you can
Couple
get too
days,
muddy.
like you said. Okay, that's a good question. All right, Bill, are you throwing the bent worm? Do you know what a bent worm is? You know Paul Driscoll?
I guess I don't know what a bent
Okay,
worm
well,
is.
it is the
technically.
Nico. It is the Nico. Paul
Well-
Driscoll was on a couple weeks ago, and he said, I throw the bent worm. And I'm like, what the
Yeah,
hell
I
are you
heard
talking about like that? And he said, he didn't even know what the name of it. Nico. So do you
Yeah.
throw the Nico rig?
Very sparingly, but I'm going to throw it a lot more.
Just something you don't do a lot right now.
Now I've used it a little bit, but the results weren't so much better than some other things that I didn't really stick with it. But I'm gonna give it another look. You know, I listened to a pro on one of the podcasts a few days ago, and I can't even remember which one it was, but he impressed me with what he said. He said if it wasn't for the Nico rig, he would not be on the pro tour.
Really?
And that said something to me, and it told me I need to give it another look because he's catching them all over the country. And he was sincerely talking about if not for that rig, I couldn't even be on the pro tour.
So I can believe it. What about you? You throw it?
I've thrown it something, but I don't throw it much.
Yeah. So I know Driscoll was saying that he likes to take a fluke stick from Zoom. He likes to throw that on that Nico, and they will throw it shallow, kind of the same places you throw a wacky worm, but you also can fish that deep too. So it's pretty versatile. So I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. So for either of these men, do you use forward-facing sonar to find fish or structure the most? I think both of you guys said earlier, more structure than fish. More structure than fish. I think we can agree on that right there. Guys, we got I'd say about 20 minutes. We're going to have the option question of the week. So you guys be ready. How do you use forward-facing sonar shallow? Either one of you. That's a question right there.
Just got to do a little extra tuning on it. It don't show, you got to change your settings a little bit. Bill would be a lot better at that than I am.
Okay, all right, Bill. So shallow water.
Bill's a tweaker. He likes to play with it till he gets it just right, and I can't do that.
How do we tweak our forward-facing sonar to be more effective shallow?
Well, number one, I don't use auto depth on it. You always set that manually. And most of the year on Allatoona, I'll leave it on 40, but when I'm 40 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to fish shallow, I will put it up to 20, but I'll never go under 20.
Under 20. Okay.
20, maybe I'll learn to use it at shallower depths, but people smarter than me have told me 20 feet is probably about the limit on what you ought to do. And I've found that to be true. And the only thing that you really adjust sometime like that is, the gain, the range on gain is 64 to 72.
Okay.
72 max. Deeper water, you can usually go higher gain. Sometimes in shallower water, you might want to back it up to 68 or 64. Some of the transducers are hotter than others, and my 64 might not be what his 64 is, but the screen and the static and whatever will tell you you let the picture tell you, not what some setting somebody's told you
Right.
works. You let your eyes tell you. And sometimes in shallow, you'll back that off. Sometimes, since I'm usually casting less distance, I might even back it up to 80 feet range wise distance versus I leave it on 100 all the other time. But that's the only things I change.
What brand do you use?
Garmin.
You're Garmin. What about you?
Garmin.
Garmin. Is there, for somebody that's got, that might be thinking about buying one or the other, the comparison between Garmin and Hummingbird? And be honest. I mean,
I don't want to say.
You don't want to say.
I'm a Hummingbird man.
Oh, okay.
But not for forward facing sonar.
Garmin just has better forward facing sonar right now for you.
They do.
Okay. I mean, that's fair enough. What about you? Have you just only used?
I've never used Hummingbird's forward-facing sonar. I've used Lowrance and Garmin, and I like the Garmin a lot better.
What's the difference in the two?
I think it's clear the farther out you're looking,
Right.
and I can pick up stuff a whole lot better than some of the other boats I fish out of have Lowrance, and I have a hard time seeing 80 foot out, seeing what I'm looking at, and it looks a whole lot better on Garmin.
Okay. All right. So did I miss any questions that are up in the comments there? We got so many. So I just but yeah, you can go back down. I got those. Again, guys, keep the questions coming because this is very interesting in what they're talking about. Tony, pull up Tony Collins, the how-to hero comment. I don't know if it's a question, but it is a comment. Finding structure is one of the best uses, but to dial in lures, it really helps me to know where in the water column the fish are or are moving to.
Very true.
Yeah. So my cousin got it. He does have a Garmin. He said one of the biggest things that he learned is how much the fish are actually moving.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people got this idea that the bass are just sitting stationary and the bait's just stationary. 2D, it comes across as this big, slow blob. But with bluebacks, they're on your screen and off the screen. Everything's moving down there. You find that to be true?
It amazes me how many times you'll be looking and not seeing anything, and you'll see shad swim by, and you'll see one shoot up off the bottom and come get them.
Yeah, so it was almost how the fish are reacting. And I know on Lanier, again, you mentioned topwater bite. It's coming on Allatoona like Lanier's got, that a guy will throw topwater over a brush pile, and he will watch the bass only coming up to about 6 foot below the surface and turning back down. So to him, it's like, now let's go after him with a jerk bait. Do you use it like that, just kind of seeing what the fish are doing and adjusting your baits?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can roll a swim bait over a school of fish that's sitting on top of a tree, and they may not even move, or they might just kind of string out and follow it and stay 6, 8 feet behind it. And when they're doing that, that's not the lure. It's not going to work.
Right.
So whatever lure you use that actually makes them bite, makes them crash it, whether it's a more erratic bait or whatever, there's certain baits that they will string along and follow but never bite. But at the same time, if they're doing that, there's a bait that they will attack.
Yeah.
If you are using the right lure in the right fashion.
You got to stay after them. Pull up Jacob Reimer's question there for me, please, sir. Do either of you have any success using forward-facing sonar after dark, or do you use it primarily during the day?
I think we both have had great success after dark, but not looking at fish.
That's right. Looking at structure.
Looking at structure. Now, is there a difference, though, between daytime and nighttime as far as what it picks up at all, or is it the same?
I hadn't used mine enough. I've looked at Bill's a good bit at night, but I hadn't used mine enough at night to really.
What about you?
Definitely at night, there's more trash fish, baits, particles, all kind of clutter on the screen at night that comes out. I don't know whether it's the photoplankton that the screen is a lot busier at night. Normally have to turn the gain down just a little bit. But again, just like in muddy water, I'm sure there's people that can disagree with this, but I'm not looking, I never look for fish at night. And if I can see them at night, it's not bass and they don't bite. The fish that you catch at night are on bottom or they're so deep in brush that you don't see them. Now you can roll a bait over them and sometimes see them shoot up and get it, but I never look for fish. I'm strictly looking for structure and places to put the bait at night. And it's very helpful.
And there's times when they are sucked to the bottom so tight that you can't see them. You go out there those days and you say there was bait here yesterday, where they at? They're still there.
Yeah.
If you want to make yourself mad, grab an Alabama rig and throw across one of them barren bottoms and start reeling it and watch how many come up and follow it. They just materialize.
You think a lot of guys, especially those that aren't experienced, they see nothing. They just pull the trolling motor up and leave.
I know they do.
Yeah. And that's one thing. A lot of guys, the Emil Wagners, other guys that have been on here, that when they're fishing a tournament, now we're talking tournaments, will pull up, scan a brush pile, don't see what they want, pull it up and go. They'll just scan and go to the next until they see what they want. How many times are there fish there that we're missing doing that? And I realize Emil runs 60, 70 spots. That's just, he's been on the show. He talks about
and there's times when you pull up on brush and you can see fish in the brush. And then there's times where you don't know there's fish in the brush and you still get bit. There's times where you can get a jig on it and shake it and fish go everywhere.
Okay.
It's fun to watch, but it's aggravating.
Yeah, I bet. Our good buddy Ron Swinford has a question here. Do you think the tree cutting years ago at Tuna has helped those largemouth?
If it did, they've done a lot more. It's going to help it a lot more because they have cut a ton of trees down this year.
Yeah, there's a ton of trees around.
Ton of trees.
So when you say cutting, are they just going along the bank?
What they do is the Corps done a tree cutting program years ago, and the trees that were getting undercut on the bank. So if the tree gets undercut and it falls, it rips out part of the bank. So what they do is they cut those and they cable them to the stump so they can't go nowhere.
Okay.
And they had a lot of fishermen that helped them at one time. I guess it's just the Corps doing it now. But Stamp Creek's got a ton. Clear Creek's got a ton. McCaskey's got a ton.
Good. I'm fishing Stamp Creek. I got a tournament over there.
I need to know when that is so I make sure I don't go up there.
There'll be 30 electric.
I know I've done that before, and we don't need any speed bumps that blast off.
Hey, listen, listen. I mean, it happens. We did one on Lanier at Baldridge last weekend, and bless these big boat guys' hearts are coming down the lake. They've probably been riding for 45 minutes to get down to the south end, and they pull into the creek we're in, and there's an electric boat, and they just kind of tuck their heads and turn around. Yep. Or they're probably calling us names that we don't,
I'm sure.
That's probably what they're doing. Chance Smith, you guys keep them coming right here. Fishing a new lake next week without electronics. How would you fish it? So you go to a new lake, you got no electronics. How is Bill Payne approaching that lake?
Old school.
Yeah. What is old school?
Well, depends on the water conditions, but if it's like a lot of places and it's muddy, I'm going to get up I'm going to look for visible cover, get up shallow and cast at it with something.
Cast it. Would you start off with your crankbaits?
It depends on the lake, but if it's a smaller lake, if it's got grass, if it's got whatever, if it stays warm, I might throw a spinnerbait, chatterbait, whatever. But, old school, look with your eyes, look at the bank, see how the bank falls off, do it the old way, pre-electronics. Maybe there's not a map of the lake. If there was a map, I would fish by the map, the contours and so forth, and looking for visible shallow cover is all I would know to do.
Yeah, that sounds like the right answer. You probably say the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, just look for the obvious.
Yeah, and just go do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things when I was fishing the BFLs and stuff and started out, I'd go try to find out all the information I can about a lake that I hadn't fished much and try to catch them the way they catch them. I finally figured out if I go and fish the way I fish, I do a lot better
Yeah.
and you're a lot more comfortable doing it.
You are a lot more comfortable. Patrick Gray says we had a 9.42 largemouth at the ABL this past Saturday.
That's the tournament that I fished. That thing was a beast.
Was it?
And they had 3 fish.
Did they win it?
No. They had 12 pounds, got
The
second.
9-pound
fish.
one was second place.
Yeah.
So what won it?
14.
14.
Yeah.
I feel real good though coming to a tournament with a 9. I guess they got big fish. So tell me they got big fish.
They got big
okay,
fish.
they got that money.
Yeah,
right
I'm
there.
pretty sure they got big fish.
How about this? Barday is the fairest, honest, and nicest guy you will ever fish with.
Sounds like a smart man.
That's his publicist.
Is that it?
That is evidently that's your
Stephen
PR guy.
Barday. He fished with me in the BFL on Lanier a few years ago.
Okay. You want to compliment him back?
I mean, we had fun. We caught
mean,
some fish. I think we both got a check that day.
Did you
I
really?
think so.
Okay. All right there. Let's see. A couple of them right above. You just went, there's a couple of questions that we just, one's above Luke's right there. Then we'll get to him. All right. So Stephen has a question. In the coming month, will you go red crawl, crankbait until you get bit?
I'll alternate.
Again, you said earlier you threw some chartreuse in there, just whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, but what would make you throw the red crankbait before anything? Just the water clarity? That's back to that?
If it's muddy, or stained,
Yeah.
But, I'll go tomorrow and whatever crankbait's on there, and I don't remember if it's green or red, that's the one I'll start
You
with.
just start chunking.
Yeah.
You start chunking. What about you?
I like the red as long
Okay.
as there's some stain on the water. And see, we fish those Sunday morning tournaments. It's a 5-hour tournament. So you got to figure out quick
What they're hitting.
what they're hitting.
Yeah.
And you don't have much time to make adjustments. And there's sometimes, like we're talking about in the stained water, where they'll bite it all day long. And there's sometimes where 15 minutes after you start, they're done.
Yeah, that happened to me.
Yeah.
That happens to me all the time. Well, like I said, I got bit. I was throwing that red Little John in the first cast, got hit. It got off third cast, got one. Made a couple more casts thinking the day was going to go great. I didn't get another bite on it. And then I talked to all the guys fishing that tournament. They said, basically, 8:30 on that crankbait bite just died.
And it's according to the conditions.
Yeah.
You got to figure out. That's one of the things with us fishing those short tournaments. You got to figure out whether they're moving or dragging.
And
Whether
explain to somebody that doesn't know that those
Well,
terms.
they're going to hit moving baits because they're aggressive,
Yep.
or you're going to have to slow down and drag something to get them to bite.
Okay, makes sense. Pull up Luke Turner had a question. Guys, good questions. Keep them coming. All right, so which electronics, in their opinion, is best in their preference? Hummingbird, Garmin, Lowrance, which is easy going for a newbie, which I think we answered that. We asked that. Both of you guys currently like the Garmin.
Yeah. I know the Hummingbird, and Bill's real good on setting up Hummingbird. Hummingbird's one that you've got to be more technical and do more, like I said, tweaking and getting it set just right. I think Lowrance is pretty easy out of the box just to use in auto settings. And I got 3 Garmins that I just put on my boat, and they're pretty easy to use. It's the first time I've dealt with Garmin.
Right.
I went all Garmin, so everything would link.
So Garmin and Lowrance are what we call caveman proof,
Yes.
and then Hummingbird would be the PhD.
They're a graph that even Danny could use.
Dang, that good, that easy, huh? Like, listen, I had problems using the calculator, so that works out perfectly.
Let me add one thing about that.
Add that, Mr. Payne. You add whatever you want.
And I guess this is up for debate, but not with me. The one thing that puts Hummingbird above all the rest for traditional sonar, 2D, down imaging, side imaging, is really the mapping. Lake Master mapping is far superior for the lakes around us, Lanier, Allatoona, Carter's. I've been to the St. Lawrence River. I knew nothing about the St. Lawrence River and was able to go up there and use the mapping and the highlight and catch fish. And some days catch 100 a day. And I was lost.
Yeah.
So, and mapping, we're talking about sonar, forward-facing sonars, the Rage, but mapping is one of the biggest advancements in electronics that there ever was.
Yeah. I know a lot of guys talk about the Hummingbird when it comes to mapping. They come in there, even if they use, like, say, a Garmin for their forward-facing, they always seem to have a Hummingbird on there for that reason. I've heard a lot of guys talk about that.
On my Phoenix, I had the ranches and I put a Hummingbird just for mapping. And it's amazing the difference. We was on Chick and fishing a ditch mouth, and it was the Navionics mapping was 50 to 75 foot off where the ditch actually was.
Really?
And Hummingbird was right on it.
Right on.
Now Garmin last year mapped Allatoona. I don't know if those are available yet. I don't know, but they had several boats on Allatoona mapped the whole lake last year.
Okay, but I have heard a lot of guys say that.
And you talking about electronic setup? Y'all seen the setup was on that boat.
Oh, I bet.
They had transducers that were 3 foot long. I mean, it was
legit.
Amazing. Yeah.
Legit right there. Hey, I believe it. Michael Fritz wants to know, let's pull that question. Well, Allatoona being the big watershed it is, do you think one end of the lake has been more productive in the last few years, especially during the drawdowns, and then I guess again when the lake is filling back up? Now, Allatoona sits funny for us Lanier guys, because on Lanier, the south end of the lake's a dam. But on Allatoona, it's in the middle. I believe that's to be correct.
Mid-lake.
And you can mid-lake. And so you would consider Stamp Creek up towards Knox Bridge being the north end, getting down towards Gatewood, all that's the south end.
I consider the south end the 75 end.
The 75 end, over towards 75.
Ackworth end, yeah. That's
Okay.
the Allatoona Creek end.
Allatoona Creek. Okay, so how about
and then around the dams mid-lake, and then everything above that's up the lake.
all right, so when the water's down, which part of the lake's more, productive?
They all have their times, and sometimes they're better. And this year it's been crazy because the watercolors change so much. And you'll go in the creek one day and it'll be clear, and the next day it'll be muddy, and the next day it's gone again. I mean, it's been crazy, but it's in winter fishing.
Yeah.
Any creek arm, any channel swings, pretty much.
What about you? What do you think?
It changes. I mean, I've got my favorite areas. Like, I rarely go under I-75 bridge. I remember fishing a tournament, a couple of Toys for Tots a couple of years ago. And of course I went toward the dam, and it seems like 5 out of the top 6 or 6 out of the top 7 fished up in Allatoona Creek above the bridge. Yeah. And I was not one of those people.
Right.
So obviously that was a good area that day at that water level. And I think that was in November. And, but I kind of stick to my favorite areas. I know at times tournaments are won up Little River. I never go under the Little River Bridge to fish. I went one time just to play around and see it, but I never think about going there. So I've got my favorite areas, and I generally fish up. I like the Galts to Little River area, but a lot of times I fish between the dam and the yacht club, which is a very short distance. You got the mouths of Stamp, McCaskey, you can go back in those, but I don't run around a lot if I don't need to catch a good many fish. But winning a tournament might be a different thing. But I still like that area up 2 miles, 3 miles either side of Galt's Ferry. That's a comfort zone, got a lot of structure, a lot of offshore stuff. But I may be fishing up there and they win it down in Allatoona Creek.
Right.
Okay. So
used to be Allatoona Creek was the end when I was growing up. That's where you caught that, and up the rivers where all the largemouth was caught, in the backs of the creeks. And we caught, when I was just out of high school, we had 18 pounds 2 days in a row in 2 different tournaments, me and a buddy of mine, and everything was caught below 75. It silted in so bad. There's not as much structure down there as there used to be, not any ditches, not any stumps. So it's not like it used to be, but they still get down there.
Okay. I got one more question, and this is for me personally. This has nothing to do with any of the questions, but you guys keep them coming. We got some time before we get to the spawn, but I know on Lanier, talking to a lot of guys, seems like it starts on the north, works its way south. But with the way Allatoona sits, do you see that kind of differences from one lake to, one end of the lake to the other, as far as when they start bedding? Is one?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. But I don't go. I don't go above Galt's much.
Okay.
I stay mid lake in the south end.
The south end. Do you see any difference?
Probably not a good one to ask that, but I don't.
Okay, I was just curious.
And for better or for worse, I never, in what I do now with customers,
Right.
I don't really look for a lot of largemouth spawning. I do pay attention to the spots spawning, but even when I have, there's just specific places in all the creeks or areas where year to year they use those same areas to spawn, and I look there, and I don't Allatoona is not so big that I think it varies a whole lot.
I got you.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, Lanier being so north and south and stretched out like that, it's like Gunnersville's the same way. They'll different ends of the lake, they'll spawn at different times, but Allatoona's kind of
I was just curious, talking
compact
about
and all at the same.
just the way it lays and all that. All right, guys. So, okay, look, right now, all you guys, it's time for the Opsin Fluoro question of the week. This is for a code to opsonusa.com. You can go in there and check out all their new fluoro. Again, they're getting into the bass game. They come from the saltwater world, especially big in the tuna fishing. And if you know anything about, we talked about it one time, opsin is the protein in a fish's eye. The more opsin you have, the better a fish can see. So tuna and trout being on the highest, and the bass are kind of up in there, and then catfish are the worst. So a good fluoro, you want that line to be invisible. Opsin's putting out a product. So our buddy Kevin is back there, and he gave me the question right here. Guys, you're going to be shocked. Tonight, it is only a two-part question. A two-part question. And I think some of you guys are going to get this pretty quick. Kevin's going to take it easy on you. He'll be back next week with one that will stump you. But here it is. It's two parts. Do not put one part of the answer in your, one part of the question in your answer. You're just giving the information for somebody else. But here it is. Tim, you got it? You got the answer back there, Tim? Do you know the answer? I know Kevin knows it.
I've got Kevin back here. And
You
he's
got Kevin?
the answer, so we'll go with that.
Okay, so Kevin, keep your eyes on it. I got it. You may read it, or you want to read it? You got that sultry voice right back there. Okay. All right. In what year was the first Bassmaster Classic not held on a mystery lake, and who won that event? Here's the question again. In what year was the first Bassmaster Classic not held on a mystery lake? Who won that event? Two-part question right there. So in the comment section, you guys start throwing it out there. See how long it takes somebody to get that. And you're very close, Landrum. Very close. So you guys look right there. I want to give away this discount code. And I actually got them in the email today. So you guys that won the last week, I'll have them out tomorrow. For you guys that previously won. So, and this came from Bassmaster Magazine. So if it's wrong, blame Bassmaster Magazine and then Kevin, because it is not me. I did not have the time to look up. Right there, Derek O. Is that it? 77, Rick Clun?
That's it.
That's it. So Derek O, you win $50 off at opsonusa.com. Message me. I'll send you the discount code tomorrow. You can hit me straight up, Danny Pruitt. Cody Peels, you were close. I want you guys, if you guys are watching, I want you to look at the comments right there. Derek O and Cody Peels. For those guys that are watching on Facebook, here's a little tip for you. If you will watch on YouTube, if you are on YouTube and you are on Facebook and you and a guy type in the answer at the same time and hit enter, YouTube will always send its first. Before Facebook comes in, I don't know why, but always the YouTube guy will get in quicker. So, Landrum, you were close. So, again, Derek O, hit me up on Facebook tomorrow. Just direct message me at Danny Pruitt, and I will send you the codes out. So, let's go back up. We had some questions. Let's see. Let's buzz off. All right, right here. Hightower. Okay, David Hightower. Or David. Pull that up. Did you guys notice a big difference in the Garmin 32 versus the 34?
Sure. Huge difference.
What were the biggest differences?
Distance and clarity. See a lot farther with 34. It's a lot clearer screen.
Okay.
Big
difference.
Improvement.
What do you got? You got 34?
34, and that's all I've used.
That's all you've used. Okay. So right there you go. Do either of you throw a chatterbait versus a spinnerbait anytime to pick one over the other? And I like that question because I find and this is just me, that the younger the guy is, the more apt he is to throw a chatterbait. The older the guy is, the more apt he is to throw a spinnerbait. I've just noticed that with my guests and just asking that question. So we'll start with you, Bill. Chatterbait versus spinnerbait, or do you just use it based upon conditions?
That's for me, that's a very difficult question. I've never been able to tell by the conditions which one will work the best, although I think a chatterbait sometimes in water that is not as stained as it takes a spinnerbait to be effective, to be maybe a better choice. But the only way that I know which one's best is to try them both and a good bit and see which one gets bit. I can tell you today, the spinnerbait was a lot better than the chatterbait. We caught several fish on the spinnerbait. I got one bite on a chatterbait. So that tells me, after using them a fair amount of time, that today was a spinnerbait day.
Yeah.
2 days ago, got on a little area of fish, and I was throwing a spinnerbait. I didn't feel really good about it. My client said, well, can I throw this chatterbait? And I said, sure. And he caught 3, and I didn't catch any, and I tied a chatterbait on and caught 1 then.
Yeah.
So I don't know what a lot of the experts might say on how you decide which is which, but the only way I can really tell is to try them and see which one gets bit in a given situation.
Would you normally start off with a spinnerbait first, or does it matter?
A lot of times.
Right.
If the water's really stained, I mean, you know, there's a movement out there now that, you know, a chatterbait took over for a while, but there's some of the pros now that think a spinnerbait's maybe a better choice many times than a chatterbait.
Coming back
now, you know, there's certain situations that beg for one over the other. Probably in grass, probably a chatterbait's more popular than a spinnerbait.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What about you?
We used to throw spinnerbaits a lot. That was my favorite thing to fish. And I kind of got into the chatterbaits. We throw the Picasso Shot Blade Pro. What we like to throw. And I won money on it. Fishing co-angler at Gunnersville, we caught some. I'm caught out of the back of the boat. I caught 2 7-pounders on 2 different tournaments over there, and the guys.
I bet that made your boater feel good.
Yeah, I felt bad. Yeah. It really did. But I don't throw. I have a hard time hooking up with a chatterbait. I lose a lot of fish. I don't know what it is, but I don't throw a spinnerbait near as much as I used to.
Do you run a trailer hook on your spinnerbaits when you do throw?
Yes.
You as well, or
no?
Okay, why?
The only way I would ever use a trailer hook is using something like a smaller profile, like a mini-me type bait, where I'm burning it in open water. Otherwise, at night, I never put a trailer on. And really, today, even though I was not in cover, or at least thick cover, I didn't run one at all.
Okay. I want to.
That's just my preference.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to do this before I get to the rest of the questions. I know you had talked about bringing some new baits, or kind of what you wanted to mention some baits. You know.
Well, I had 2, and the most exciting one I was warned off from presenting at this time.
Okay.
But
all right.
it'll be out soon, but they don't have the finished item, and they didn't want the prototypes didn't meet their standards, but I do have one.
Show me that one then.
It's this little job right here, the radar shed from Fishco. You know, boot tails have kind of been on a little bit of a decline, especially for forward facing sonar, and these little shad type baits have come on strong, and they've got a heavily salted, very pliable plastic in this little radar shed, and it's a perfect forward facing bait for suspended fish and so forth. And it's a beautiful little shad type bait.
So if you got to put that, I'll put it down there in front. kind of spin it a little bit where you guys can see it. Now, this is a Fishco product,
It is.
and you really like the Fishco stuff. I see you
do.
posting about it all the time.
I do. You know, they're good friends of mine, and I have a little bit of input on it, and they're a local company, so I feel good about those folks and want to see them do well.
You gonna help me set up an account so I can get them up here at the store?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
You do your best like that. What I do notice about this, a lot of guys, and again, I'm more familiar with the Lanier guys. The thing about Kitex is they're only really good for like 1 or 2 fish. And this, I'm feeling it. Cast, that, you know, their Prodigy. That a lot of companies go into that more harder kind of plastic because for the money that we're spending, I mean, like how many fish you reckon you could catch on one of these before you had to replace it? On a typical day, I'm sure, you know, there's always that fish.
I can catch several, but now sometimes you'll get one and he'll sling it around
Oh,
and
yeah.
rip it and whatever. But that's a pretty durable bait.
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
better than, you know, my favorite boot tail for years back was an Easy Shiner, but you go through a lot of them.
Yeah.
The Fishco swim baits, they've got a couple of different ones. They're more durable.
More. That's what I'm saying. Just feeling it, it just feels like it would last longer than a
Yeah.
Kitex style bait. And you know, a lot of guys are going to this finesse stuff, these smaller baits, especially with the forward-facing sonar.
Mm-hmm.
So, what brand of head you got right there?
Well, that's one that Fishco rigged up and gave me this box. But my head of choice is this. I used to use Revenge, and they had the best little swim bait head there was. But unfortunately, the owner of Revenge passed away at a relatively young age, and that bait company was no more.
Right.
So now I use a Picasso smart mouth jig head. It's
Okay.
very similar to the one. It has a 90-degree line tie, which is preferable for
See if I can get
that
so you
kind of a
guys can
deal.
See it right there. Yeah.
The good part about that is you can get it in various weights, and you have a choice of whether you get 1/0, 2/0, 3/0. They have all kinds of variations of that, and that is the exact head that we caught several hundred fish this summer at St. Lawrence River smallmouth using swim baits on that head. And
It's a good looking one.
I'm not saying it's magic or it's better. It's just a good one. It's available, and you can get the hook size that you want.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: you throw underspins any?
Very little.
Very little. You throw underspins any?
I do to some at times. I like to catch them on it because it's such a challenge.
Okay, that's where. Okay, I'm glad you said that
because my own preference is. What used to happen to me is I could go in a ditch or somewhere and catch 1 or 2 fish on an underspin, and they quit biting.
Yeah.
I could start throwing a finesse jig head out there and catch fish after they wouldn't touch an underspin.
Okay, so that's kind of what I'm noticing is, you know, a couple years ago, everybody had to throw an underspin, and I remember doing the podcast with you. You've always pretty much seemed to be about just a head and no blade, but I've been told by a lot of guys this year, while there's still fish being caught, it's not as easy to catch them on that underspin as it used to be. Maybe the fish are getting used to it, whatever the reason. You think just going with that just to, you know, helps them to key in just on the bait instead of the blade?
I don't know. I guess I feel like I can do more things with this, letting it sink, getting it fishing it on the bottom. This is a little simpler, but don't get me wrong. When fish are like Lanier, like they're out over offshore brush, I love nothing better than to roll an underspin over the top of a brush pile and have one lock it down. That's great fun. And I'm sure that one of my problems may be that there's just a lot of people that's a lot better with it than I am, but I just prefer, I go a little different route. That's all I can say. And I'm not saying it's not a good bait or anything like that. I love to catch them on it, but if I can catch them on that, I can usually catch them on something else better.
I understand. A lot of guys are going with the the ball head jigs that are now being specifically made, either being tungsten or, some are putting out lead. Well, I guess it has a coating on it that show up better on forward-facing sonar. Have you found that to be an issue with anything, or is that more marketing? In your honest opinion.
That's what I would call it.
Marketing.
I don't, there's a fellow, the Garmin guru online. He did a bunch of tests, and I don't know how scientific they were, but he tested tungsten, lead, and other materials. And the one that reflected the best, which I don't understand, was glass.
Glass?
And yes. Glass.
Really?
Yeah. It was all over the internet, but you don't have glass jig heads, but I look at everything to see how it reflects and how it reads. And I really can't tell the difference between tungsten and lead.
Yeah.
They got all this stuff, this bait stuff you're supposed to rub on it, and it gives.
Yes.
I have to call bull.
Okay, you can say it. Say it like you want to say it. I'll say it for you. He says bullshit's what he's saying.
But
you're a nicer guy.
What do I know?
Well, how long you been fishing?
Well,
it's been a hot minute.
Yeah,
you got some experience.
I just can't tell any difference. So.
But what your job is to put people on fish. You don't do that, you don't guide anymore. Your guide business goes out. So
you're not gonna catch me rubbing Vaseline on my swim bait.
Hey, listen. That right there is a TikTok right there. You're not gonna catch me rubbing Vaseline.
Yeah, that just made a short right there.
That is it. I will get some views on
whether
that.
It's got glitter in it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me ask you this: since we got you, I think we got him fired up a little bit, about as fired up as Bill gets, unless different like that. What about on an underspin, a regular blade? I get the silver versus the gold argument, but what about these with these prisms and all that? You think that makes a difference?
I don't know. I guess it's got good flash.
But how much flash do you get when you're down deep?
I don't know. You get some. I'll tell you the biggest trick that the guys at Lanier kept a secret for a long time, that when I was catching a good many fish on underspins, that was really the trick. And that was putting a hook on the blade, putting a hook on the swivel that the blade fits on.
Yes.
Cupped in. I mean, I started doing that. I was probably late to the party, but anyway, I found out about it, put some on, and at Carter's Lake there for a couple of years, 90% of the fish I caught was on the blade hook.
Really?
Before that, I was getting bump. But now if you caught a big one, you needed to play it carefully because it'd pull that split ring out. But that was a pretty neat thing, but I just don't fool with even doing that now.
No need in doing it.
Well, there may be a need, but I probably don't use an underspin as much now as I once did.
I got you like that. I was very curious because in restocking the store, looking online, looking at all the new products, a lot of the new products have forward-facing sonar. They got FFS on it and shows up better, or specifically made for the forward-facing sonar guy. And I always say there's two baits. There's those that catch fish and those that catch anglers. So in my mind, don't get me wrong, I want to sell everything to everybody.
And there's a lot more of the second one than there is the first one.
I mean.
But you can't catch the second one without catching the first one.
I guess so. But it's like I could carry every Zoom worm color that's out there. Most of them don't pertain to North Georgia. And there's certain things that, certain baits. I just wonder how much of it's marketing hype.
That's like green pumpkin green, green pumpkin red, but green pumpkin purple, green pumpkin magic. It's all basically green pumpkin.
It is.
I don't see any reason to throw anything up.
You remember? I remember what we used to rag each other about, like with jigs. You always said the band versus hand tied.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, I like the hand tie my jigs that I make just because I think it lasts longer. I think the guys will lose it before it breaks. But you always said fish don't care if it's got a band.
They can't tell if it's got a band.
So you think
and Foster, the Chattahoochee jigs, he says it lasts longer.
Yeah.
I said, how long do you keep a damn jig?
Well, if you're me, about 2 casts. I mean, if I'm being honest, about 2 casts and I'm in a rock or something.
Just depending on if it's tied on a FG knot or not. That's where I lose them.
But I'm always like, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean it to sound them, but I'm like, I'll just break off because like I know I can get another. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it does me no good on the tackle store because I know where I can get another. I'm sure I've missed some questions, so let's scroll back up. And hey, even your wife was playing the question.
She was.
She was playing the question. So
She was a little off.
You're a little bit off, but you know what? We'll give you points right there. All right, going down. I think it's right below her comment. There was a question. Whoa. Okay. Any conversation about electric only lakes, hard labor creek, etc.? I tell you what, Greg, probably not tonight, but I have talked to several electric only guys, and I'm going to do probably on a Tuesday night, maybe do a separate live well talking about the electric stuff, because I fish that more than I fish anything like that. So it is coming. We will definitely get on that. But if you got any questions, again, message me, and I'll help you out on any lake, find out what they're biting for the guys that are on it. I know more about Latham than I do any of them, but hard labor. You ever fished any of them?
Mm-mm.
I'm telling you, dude, you need to get you an electric rig. Some of the best fishing in Georgia is on these electric only
All
lakes.
right.
I'm just telling you, it might change your life.
Gotta have a 3/4 ton electric rig.
They make them now.
Do they?
We'll get you like a 144 volt system. It'll push your big butt
Nah,
around.
I don't want to be a speed bump.
I'm telling you, if you saw the fish that were coming out of electric only
Oh, I'm
lakes.
sure.
Oh, they're there. Latham over here fishes like Lanier because it's got bluebacks in it. It's got spots and largemouth. And they school anything you do on Lake Lanier, you can do on Latham. And it'll work right there. So, David Hightower. Bill, how do the fish spawn on Carter's with the lake going up and down daily? Now, I also have that question about the re-reg lake, because one day it's like 1,100 acres and the next day it's a river channel. So how do bass spawn with fluctuating water temps or water levels, excuse me?
Well, I'd say during the spawning time, except with some unusual weather event, there is a range of 2 or 3 feet that the lake may go up and down, and they're going to spawn deeper than that generally.
Yeah.
To account for that, and they're going to spawn out on the shoal markers, some of them back in the creeks, and they'll try to do it quick enough to so that the water fluctuations does not wipe out the spawn. But I'm sure at times things happen that disrupt the spawn and maybe make one year class not as productive as another year.
Yeah.
Because of some high water, muddy water, they may have to try to spawn again. You know, Mother Nature has a way of
she'll take care of it.
With that, but we don't do the fish any favors by fluctuating it like that. But that's just the nature of the beast. Maybe Carter's would be in better shape if it was stable, but we still catch them, and there's still some on the beds, but sometimes you'll see those fish bedding 8-9 feet deep, and typically the fluctuations can't affect that.
Right. Okay. All right. So Michael Temples, your comment right there. He says, man, I'd love to give a good bit. He would give a good bit just to sit down and pick these men's brains for a day out on the water. I mean, you can book a guide trip with Bill. Actually, if somebody wanted to book a trip with you, while I brought it up, how would they get in touch with you?
They can call me at 706-280-2305 at any time. They can Google Bill Payne Guide Service. It's probably easier than remembering that number.
Yeah.
They can get on my Facebook page and get the call button. I'm not hard to find.
He's not. And he answers. I tell you what, I text him and he answers always quick, or message him. What about you? You ever going to get into the guide business? You just going to take any guys out and show them spots?
We thought about
he likes taking guides' money.
No doubt. Yes, no doubt.
I thought about doing the guiding thing down in Florida, the saltwater.
You're a saltwater guy.
If we move down there, but bass fishing, I like the competition.
Yeah, I would go with you on the saltwater. We'd have some fun.
Down there.
We would have some fun.
Yeah.
I think I might do that. I might do that. Just show up and Barday, I'm here.
We'll be down there. We was down there 12 weeks last
Hell,
time.
I know. Every time I turn on Facebook, you hold that fish. I'm like, does the man work? Because one time you talked about moving down there.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought you moved.
We wanted to.
But you posted so many things about down there. I'm like, well, I guess Barday.
We spent 3 weeks straight down there in April. And I just bought that center console, knew nothing about saltwater. But while we were down there, we figured a little something out, and it was a blast.
Yeah. How much of your freshwater fishing translates over to saltwater? Just out of curiosity.
Besides knowing how to use the lures and the different techniques and stuff like that, as far as locations and stuff, I was lost as Hogan's goat.
Yeah, it's a different world down
It's
there.
a whole different world. But then you figure out down the Steenhatchee, you get out over them grass flats and you just drift.
Yeah.
And they're there.
That's the way to do it. That's the way we learned how to do it. What's the next question? I will comment on Surf Dad's thing right there. Yeah, all electric. I'm going to have a total electric podcast very soon. There's one right above it because I see a question mark. Okay, right there. Derek O, still around. Are there lakes within a couple of hours with a hot spring or a power plant other than Chick? Are there any? Chick's got they got the nuclear reactor right there.
Yeah, Sinclair used to have that warm water discharge, but Georgia Power closed branch down.
It's
They
gone.
closed it down.
So, do you know of one? I mean, you go up to Chick from time to time, don't you?
I used to.
Used to.
Yeah.
Is that the only one around here that has anything like a hot water discharge?
It's the only thing that I know of.
Is Chick.
Honestly, maybe up in Tennessee, there's some other things that's kind of out of my realm of travel, but I don't know of any.
I will tell you though, from right here at the shop, you can be at Chick in what, 2 hours? You can probably have your boat in the water 2 hours, 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's like an hour and a half for me.
Yeah, like Harrison Bay, you can put in out there and some of that stuff.
Down at the dam.
Yeah,
that's close.
I caught a smallmouth there, right there at the dam. But
it's not like a true warm water discharge.
Right, it ain't like
No, they got a holding pond to cool it off. They got the cooling towers, and that's a nuclear plant up there.
Yeah, that's about it. It's not like Sinclair
not like they
used
have
to
in
be.
Texas where they
Right, yeah. Where you can fish in like 78-degree water and then go about 500 yards.
In Sinclair, you probably back this up. They would spawn way earlier down there
because of that warm water discharge. Everybody's fishing the discharge. You know when it's going on.
Everybody in the steamy water.
I see. Week 2, they've got us buying a clear, odorless fish attractant. So we'll buy anything if we think it'll help. Again, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
There's things that catch fish, and there's things that
like
catch
Bill
anglers.
said earlier, a lot of people overthink it.
They do overthink it. You know what's the funniest thing in tying jigs is guys that will come in and we got a jig that's like maybe it's got 4 strands of chartreuse or something like that. I only want 2 strands.
Yeah.
Like that fish is gonna go down there and go 1, 2. No, ain't hitting it.
Yep.
Ain't got 2, got 4. So I do think that's a very common thing. Bill, if you're not throwing an underspin, what are you replacing it with?
I swim bait.
Definitely swim bait with just a head. And he mentioned the Picasso, and then Fishco has one too as well.
Yeah, the slim swimmer, a finesse swim bait boot tail typically is what I will throw in place of an underspin. And that's just me. I know people catch them on it.
Yeah.
I know guys that make them, and they make a good one. And a lot of people swear by them.
They do. They catch fish.
I may be an oddball when it comes to that. But
I don't think you are, because I think I have found this past year when throwing. I haven't thrown the Fishco yet. I'm looking at it like I really would like to throw that, but throwing a Kitech, I switched over to a ball head this year, and I know a lot of the cast guys with their Prodigy and everything, they like the Queen's tackle. Now they do use the tungsten head, but it's just a round ball jig.
Yeah, that ball head that Picasso makes.
Yeah,
that's what they based the little spotty off of, was that little ball head.
Was that ball?
You want to see
simple. It? You got it?
I got it.
Hey, you know what? One of the questions I had for you, what a guy wanted me to ask you while you're looking that up, and this is no lie. This is honest to God. Guy goes, I want you to ask Bill Payne this: boxers or briefs? I swear to you, a guy told me to ask you boxers or briefs.
Briefs.
You're a brief guy? What about you? I'm commando.
Well,
according to what I'm wearing.
I'm commando.
If I'm wearing overalls, I'm commando.
Are you?
Yeah. Just remember that.
I expected you to show up in overalls.
I knew you would. I told Heidi you would.
I almost went to Tractor Supply to buy my Barday starter set again, because those last ones, you probably could have wore those ones I wore that night. I mean, they were like way too big for me, but I was going to buy some for the night.
Saying how bigger you are?
You are bigger than me. My God, you're 6'8".
No.
How tall are you?
6'2", 6'1", something like that.
Well, you come across as
I'm sorry, I do not have it. I'm mistaken.
That's okay, but Picasso makes the ball head.
They make it in different sizes, different hook
and
sizes.
It's got the titanium wire weed guards, and it works good.
Yeah, you can get it with or without those titanium.
Do you like those?
What?
I know Picasso has them, even on some of their jigs.
I'll
be honest with you.
I throw that in I throw that little spotty a
You
lot.
do throw that little spotty.
That's about the only jig I throw when I'm fishing
know.
Allatoona Lanier. And I think it's the best weed guard out there. It
Does it give a little bit?
It gives, and I think it gives more than the bristle guards give.
Do you really?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people talk about it gets hung up. There's a jig get hung up in the brush. 9 times out of 10, it's not the hook that gets hung up; it's the head.
Yeah.
So if you'll take it, if you pull up on the limb and you go to snatching, it's stuck. If you give it a little bit and pop it and work it through instead of dragging it through,
right.
A lot of times it won't get hung near as much. But we catch.
I know you like it.
Fish on that.
I know you like it. Ryan had a little trick when we would get hung up. Instead of jerking, if you held your rod up almost as straight as you could and then lift almost, it pops a lot of jigs out. A lot of guys hit it and they do jerk, and that just drives a hook into it if it ever gets to it. So let's see. Go back up a couple. Good stuff. Lip sticker. There's my man right there, Kevin Underwood. Mr. Bill's an awesome guy. Again, hey, listen, and I'm not saying this because he sponsors the show. I've been on the boat with Kevin. If you get a chance to go out there and you want to do some Lake Lanier, he does largemouth too, but some big spotted bass, and you want to learn the side imaging and stuff. He does the forward stuff too, but I promise you it'd be worth every penny to get on the boat with him. I had one of the best days just learning with him, and we were just riding around and he was teaching me side scan. And he's like, there's fish, there's fish. And I'm like, what are you looking at? I don't think most of the average anglers know exactly what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So it takes some expertise. All right, so there was a question, a couple right down below him. So if you scroll, we did that one. Keep on going down. Surf Dad, yes, I'm doing that. Keep on going. Right there, Jacob Reimer. When throwing a nighttime spinnerbait, do you like to throw a trailer on it or just a skirt? And what's your preferred way to fish one after dark? Slow rolling or a yo-yo retrieve? You want to start that one?
Well, me and Bill throw
A Picasso.
no. Yeah,
I know it's coming.
Yeah, but we'll say that. I can let you go on that one. I generally throw a different color trailer than what he does.
Yeah.
I like to throw like the chartreuse curly tail sometimes.
You like something bright at night?
Yeah, something bright. And I don't structure fish at night as much as Bill does. So the dragon, slow rolling, or yo-yo, it's according to what you're.
What would make
fishing.
you yo-yo?
If I can't get them to bite, just reeling it. A lot of times you get them to bite when they drop.
Okay. All right. What about you, Bill?
I always use a double tail trailer, whether it's a Yamamoto, or
A double tail.
a double tail, a big bite 5-inch double tail trailer. That's it for me.
What about color? You bright like him, or you like the darker colors?
I usually match them. I use black or black and blue,
Okay.
something like that. But you know what? I really don't care what color it is.
Right.
It's bulk.
Is that why you go with the double tail for a little more bulk, or
Well,
is it more
that's just how
you've
it's
always
just what
done
I
it?
settled on years ago when it worked really good, and
No need to
I thought
change.
it's the best.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get that.
Heavy spinner baits, 3/4, 1 ounce. You can get them down there, and even with bulk, you can bump them on bottom. I don't yo-yo very much at all. I slow roll it, bumping it on bottom as much as I can. If I feel coming up on a tree or a limb, I might give it a little quick reel handle to jump the limb.
Right.
But then I'm gonna let it. And now with forward facing sonar, a lot of times if I'm on an incline, if I'm throwing that out and trying to maintain bottom contact, sometimes I'll notice that it's not nearly as close to bottom as I want it to be. And when it's not, I stop it and let it go to bottom and settle and start it all over, because I don't want it away from bottom.
He's got a whole process.
I bet he does.
And he didn't have as many night trips this year because the day trips were so good. If he gets back to doing night trips, it'd be worth your money to go, because it is.
Okay. Worth it.
Every time I went, I learned something. And there was times we went and he wore me out of the front of the boat, and there's times I wore him out of the back of the boat. 2 different things. It's just according to what the night is, but it was I'd never fished spinnerbait like he does.
Okay. All right. So there you go. You better book a night trip with him. Guys, listen, hey, we're getting closer. You know, got a few minutes left of the show. So if you got any questions for these two guys, definitely want to get them in. You're going to guide for scallops, is what farmers say.
We can
That's what we actually talked about that for the show. So 100%. Bill is the man if you want to learn something from a guide right there. Saltwater is a whole different type of fishing. Great show tonight. Bill is a class act. I almost said it the wrong way. Like his straight up answers. You always do that. You basically, I like how you say, it's just the way I've always done it. I like it that way. What's the biggest bass? Right there, Alex Gossett right there. It's real fun back there scrolling, ain't it?
Boy, they hitting me hard with these comments.
They hit me hard tonight. Yeah. What's the biggest bass both of you have caught on Allatoona? Bill, go first. Biggest bass you ever caught. And go largemouth and spot.
Largemouth, I can't remember the ounces, but I've caught just a handful of 8s.
Okay.
And some of them stretch
right.
a long time ago. But we did catch one 3 or 4 years ago on the night spinner bait, 8-1. Last summer, I caught a 787 was the biggest one. But
I like to roll those over.
But I don't catch a bunch of those, and it's usually out fishing deep where you expect to catch spotted bass. That's when I catch them, and it's pretty much like lightning striking, I guess, because I don't catch many of them. But
what's the biggest spot?
In 1982, I caught a 7.2.
So big.
Good Lord!
But you know, at the time, I knew 3 or 4 guys that had caught them bigger.
Really? What's the late record?
It's 713.
So you almost
I don't even know, but I know people that caught 7.4, 7.5s, and I'm talking about just guys from Calhoun.
And that was in the 80s. We used to catch probably the biggest spots I've ever caught. More 5-pound spots was back then. When I was a kid, we'd go out and catch them throwing a brown and orange jig in the wintertime.
Really?
Yeah, before all the blueback.
But I can tell you, since then, I've never even caught a 6-pound spot there. Now, I've caught some 5-something. I caught a 580 in one of Bob Smith's night tournaments, but it's not like I catch big ones like that.
Yeah, but that's impressive.
To catch a 4-pounder now.
Oh, I would love it. What about you? What's the biggest largemouth and what's the biggest spot on that?
I don't know. I've weighed in a couple of 7s. Most of what I catch, sadly enough, is not during tournaments. And it's you
got the record there. 7 pound 11 ounces is the record spot. 16 pounds 9 ounces the largemouth.
Yeah,
gosh, dog.
He showed up. Greg Reimer caught that fish. I think it was 82. He showed up to fish the tournament and showed up late
and caught it.
So they just went fishing.
I would have a heart attack if I caught something
that
big. Wow. What did you say on your?
I've caught 5-pound spots from largemouth. A lot of them I don't weigh. Like I say, sadly, I catch them when I'm not in a tournament.
Yeah.
And I don't always weigh fish when I catch them.
Estimate it. What do you think? You broke 8?
Largemouth? No, I'm not on Allatoona.
Not on Allatoona. Okay, that's still a big fish anywhere. Casey says you need to get me out on a Monday nighter for the experience at some point. I tried to get Ryan to go over and fish some tournaments over there sometimes. He just don't know the lake well enough. I get it.
I'll pick him Monday night.
Will you?
There you go.
All right. Anytime. Hey, we'll do it. Get out there. I'll get my butt kicked.
That sounds like a date right there for you.
It is a date. And I'm going with the best looking guy in all of the internet right there. But no yum. And we ain't no Brokeback Mountain. Okay. We ain't doing that. Fishing with Farmer. How y'all approaching the lakes with these recent rains and the rising water with us being a few days removed from the heavy rains?
I went out Tuesday right after all that rain. And you basically had to pick where you fished because everything was so blown out, the water coming up and down. But all I do is look for watercolor.
Yeah.
If it's too muddy, I don't fish it. If it's too clear, I surely don't fish it.
Right.
We look forward every year to when stain gets all over the lake. That's when Allatoona is the best.
When it's stained.
Main lake stain, that's when we're catching them.
You know, one thing, sometimes the rains come and it gets really muddy up at the top end of the lake, and it'll start settling in and mixing in. And then as they pull the water, that band of what I consider the best color water starts moving down the river gradually before it gets too diluted and losing some of its color. So you you want to stay in what you think's the best water.
I love the fact y'all like staying on Lanier. You have I think the largemouth or the bank beating guys love the stain. And the
I've
guys
had
that
a
are offshore,
ball
they
on
love it.
Lanier when the water's stained.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We
Largemouth.
used to go to years ago. My buddy that I was talking about, Billy Bearden, that really got me fishing the humpy and so forth. We used to go to Thompson Creek in February and March and never see the river. We would stay in the creek crankbait fishing. We would go specifically to crankbait fish and have a lot of fun just staying right in that, like it was a pond almost.
It's interesting because I hear guys like, it's muddy. It's just muddy anywhere. And I look at it, I'm like, I think that's stain. The muddy you can walk across.
Fish are a lot less spooky in stained water than they are in clear water. They get spooky and shy away from stuff a lot more in clear water than they will in stained.
Makes absolute sense.
They'll be more aggressive in stained water.
Any one of y'all going to be in Cartersville this weekend at the NOE Expo? I will not. My wife is making me go to North Carolina. You ever been to a happy place, North Carolina? They got it's on top of a mountain on a cliff, and it's an overhanging kind of thing. And you see the sunrise in the mountains, and there's a cross right there. And you go up there just to watch the sunrise. That's where I got to go Saturday morning. So I will not be. You'll be working, or you gonna go up there?
Well,
Bill will be there signing autographs Saturday from 11 to 2.
As of a day or two ago, I'm going to be up there. I'll probably be fishing one day and not qualify for the next.
Oh, you're going to fish the tournament?
Yeah, one of my friends. Yeah. One of my friends, I think he's going to fish with his son, and he started calling me saying he needed a partner, and he's been a good friend to me. So
y'all will be at the weigh-in.
We're going to go fishing, and I may have all day the next day at the show, but I'm going to go fish. You know.
All right, so check this out. Scrolling down there at the bottom from Kevin. I got an open seat for Mr. Bill if you ever want to go. That's Kevin Underwood over there on Lanier.
That'd be a treat. I just wish I caught him like he did. I see the pictures every day.
Well, listen, wait a second now. I watch what you post too.
Yeah, they're not that quality.
Well, yeah, but that different late. But I mean, for where you fish, you're always posting big pics. And, you always hold up some smallmouth. I think the one I put on the Facebook, you had those smallmouth. How much of those fish weigh?
Smallmouth, fat face.
Fat face. That's the story of my life.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
Pancreatic cancer.
Yeah. That's been how long? How long has that been?
Over 10 years.
That's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
That is and I know, guys, if you want to see that, we had a conversation when you and I did the podcast, and that's been 3 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. Go back. You got to scroll on back, but watch the podcast, me and Bill. He had me in tears that night. But you're a hell of a story. You're blessed.
Much more than I deserve.
Much more than I deserve. I don't think. I think you deserve it.
What's amazing
over here pulled me through it.
Is that it? Well, you know what? I find that the women in our lives pull us through a lot.
Yeah.
Or put up with a lot, whichever way you want to look at it.
Wouldn't be here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a good story. You guys go back and watch that podcast. I remember that.
What's amazing about it is he's been through all that, and try to keep up with him in the boat. He'll fish from daylight to dark. The first time I fished, we went to Carter's, and it was dark when we put in. It was dark when we took out. We fished all day, and he never
does he ever eat? Is he one of those?
I like to eat.
You like to eat? Okay, I was just wondering. Let's see. What are your feelings on dropping Allatoona 17 feet every year and not being able to use the ramps with a dock?
That's been a touchy subject.
It's not ideal. Who wants to have a whatever price your boat is, from a $5,000 to $100,000 boat washed up against the rocks and walking in mud, tracking mud in your boat every day?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the only place, a lot of them ramps, the only place to put your boat without tearing it up bad is on the ramp. You put a kill guard, you can pull it back up on the ramp and beach it. But I think with that Phoenix I had, I wore through a kill guard in one winter.
Really?
Yeah, because you don't have, if you try to beach it on the bank, there's that chunk rock and you're going to tear it up. Are
they getting any resolution of that?
It don't seem like it. I've been after the Corps for years to try to do something, and they told me that basically my efforts were fruitless. They've been drawing it down that long or that far for ever since the lake's been dammed up. And I told them that just goes to show continued negligence, not giving us what we need.
And if I'm not mistaken, don't our tax dollars pay their salaries?
They claim that, and my argument was they built a Frisbee golf course at the park below the dam, but they won't extend the docks for us. And I said, we put a whole lot more money into the economy in ramp fees, gas, license, all that, than that little group that plays, and nothing against them, but whoever's playing Frisbee golf.
Yeah, I've seen the guys that play.
So
they're a colorful group.
yeah, no doubt.
Let's go chunk some plastic through some trees.
But they said basically the money that's Allatoona's money, the ramp fees and everything else, goes to Washington, D.C. to the general fund, and Congress decides how to disperse it.
Okay, so if we just piss off some congressmen.
And we've tried that. We've tried getting them to.
Like, how much did you try? Like, how inundated did you guys call them? Like, if we got like 5,000 guys to call them every day?
It would help.
Okay.
And it would help everybody. And that's
state
the thing.
Or federal? Do we need to call the state guys or the federal? Remind me tomorrow to get the phone numbers to our congressmen over that, and we'll post it on the group page and tell everybody, give them a call. That's your job for tomorrow, Tim. Can you remind me of that?
I can do that.
Okay, there you go. But that would help irritate them to death till they do it.
They finally told me just quit bothering them.
Well,
Every time somebody would post, is there any docks floating on Allatoona, I would share it to the Corps Facebook page. They basically told me quit. There's no.
They ain't
chance.
met me yet. Let's do that. We'll irritate the death out of them.
The Bartow County Parks and Recreation extended the one at Gatewood.
They did.
But that is a county.
So we need to give some love to them.
Yes.
We need to really thank Steve Taylor. And I brought the man's in the room with me that actually talked to him that had that done. That'd be James.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You got it done.
He
Good
actually
job.
went and
last summer.
You met him?
he took care of that.
There's an old ramp there used to be a dock. We just put it on the other one and extended. He said, no problem, give you time. So we finally got
So they did it. So that's the way it should work. One conversation, a little time, get it done.
Absolutely.
Well, I get irritated watching the news about congressmen anyway and all that stuff. So let's just irritate the daylights out of them. We'll do that tomorrow. We never called the mayor of Blairsville or Hiawassee, did we? I didn't get.
No, we didn't. I don't know about Will though. We'll
make her mad too. Yeah. So
I got to guarantee you, Will got a call.
Yeah, we gave her. I gave her number out, didn't I?
Yeah.
I believe you did.
I never called her. We'll call that.
Who's
our congressman we need to call for that? What's his name?
Loudermilk.
Loudermilk. Is he Republican or Democrat?
I talked to one of the guys.
Is he Republican? He ought to be on our side then. All right, here we go.
I talked to one of the guys that worked for him. Somebody give me that number, and the guy said, I'll get somebody from the office to call you and we'll draft a letter, and I never heard back from him.
All right, guys. So Representative Loudermilk. Where's he out of? So is that what district? Out of Cartersville?
Yeah, I don't know what.
God, I'm gonna get the feds on me. I'm gonna get audited or something.
So we even used the ADA, the American Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
And said there's people that can't fish the tournaments or can't fish the lake because they can't access the dock. Can't get in the boat from the dock. And from what I heard, the Corps said they were grandfathered.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can do with that. So is there a place you wanted to fish but never have?
A bunch of them.
A bunch of them. If you could pick one place to fish tomorrow, place you'd never been, what would it be?
Bullard's Bar.
Bullard's Bar in California. What's so special about that place?
World record spotted bass.
Big spots.
Big spots. That ain't where Jason Johnson went with Cody Myers. Is that where it was? They had like their best five was over 40 pounds. I've seen the pictures and those spots. Those are those trout eaters, those salmon, however you want to say it, kokanese and all that. Okay, so should I fish main points this time of year or the back of creeks? And let's say Allatoona. Main points, back of creeks, either one of you. What would you do?
Watercolor. Again.
Boy, y'all are all about that watercolor.
And not necessarily the backs of creek, but secondary stuff in the creeks. I mean, you got to figure they're moving now, and there's still fish out on the main points. There's still fish offshore, like Bill's been catching them. There's fish in the back of creeks, but they're starting, especially last week, they started making a little push, and that's when you start seeing the bigger bags come in.
Okay. Bill, how many big largemouths do you think are lifting Carters?
The smart answer, or smart aleck answer, is I wouldn't have a clue, but I don't catch, the way I fish, I just never catch one. It would make me think that it wouldn't even be 5%. I caught one today, but it was a little one. But I could be way off on that. But
it's a spotted bass lake at this point. It's just a spotted bass
I just
lake.
don't catch any, and no more than I hear about being weighed in. Not going by my results, because my results probably not a good measure, but I think it's one of those deals where it'd have to be under 5% of the population in the lake.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many that is, but there's not many.
Well, I know we talked Allatoona a lot, but you're on Carters a lot, you know.
Yeah, less these days, for sure. But
yeah. There's two types of anglers that come to this store about Carters: those that love it and those that hate it. There's a lot more that hate it than love it, but those that love it, they love it.
Well, I've always even when I fished there a lot, and even when I fished at Lake Weiss a whole lot, and Chickamauga, really and truly, Allatoona's always been my favorite lake, even when I was doing other things and fishing other lakes, because that's where I kind of started. And
right.
Not as a young man like Stephen growing up on the lake. I mean, gosh, I was 27 before I had a boat, and and only knew about pond fishing.
That's where I come
walking the ponds, and so I had to start from scratch and joined a little bass club, and everybody in there had more experience than me, but I thought I was a pretty fast learner.
Yeah.
They might have thought I was a slow learner. Sometimes I think I'm a slow learner.
I don't think that at all.
But that's my favorite lake. You know, people kind of looked at me funny. You know, I get out there. I've spent so many 100 nights out on that lake in the summer, and I go to certain places that I fished for a long time, and it's just kind of nostalgic thing, you know. Boy, back in 19 such and such, I was here with my buddy such and such, and we caught this, and just got a lot of memories. It doesn't help me load the boat necessarily, but I've got a lot of good thoughts and good feelings about Lake Allatoona. As
I each trip around the sun, I get more and more like that. I got one more question for you tonight. Pull it up. It was from Michael Temples. He asked, it was something about your crankbaits, like how deep.
Deep?
How deep does Bill like to crankbait fish?
Well, typically I've been a guy that would like to fish at less than 8 feet, but here recently I got doesn't mean anything, but I've got a little 1-2 punch, and I might use different crankbaits, but to simplify it, I use the Spro MD 55, which is a 4 to 8 foot runner, according to what's on the package.
Right.
And then the regular 55, that's about a 9 to 14, which I can't believe it'll run 14 feet. But anyway, if I'm fishing shallow and up closer, I'll use that little shallow runner. And then if I'm out off of a break line to where I can touch bottom at that 9-10 feet, whatever, I'll use the other one. So I usually have 2 tied on, and I try to cover from 0 to 12 or 13 feet. Although in really stained water, I generally don't have a good feeling of, even though I've disproved my own theory recently a little bit, I still don't feel good about fishing deeper than 10 feet probably.
Okay, I got that. All right, so Patrick Gray, Badass Baits, will be at the Noe Expo. Come see us. First of all, it's always a pleasure when you guys are here, you know, you finally showing up. But Bill, you've been with us several times. But first, I want to thank the bosses in the background for letting the boys come out and play tonight. I appreciate that. And
I just want to say,
Say.
I'm honored to have Stephen here.
I am too.
Great.
I've been trying for 3
Probably
years.
the best tournament fisherman on the lake. If you looked at the points and the top fives, I don't know anybody that can beat that. So I enjoy fishing with him, and he's on top of it.
He is. You want to kiss him back?
No, everybody knows what
I know. I said you ain't
Bill.
got to say nothing about Bill. So like that. Again, no, seriously. Somebody made the comment, you should be called the humble slammer, like that. But you are. Listen, you're a very humble guy, and it's always. First of all, it's always fun to watch the pictures you post. With that. Again, shout out your guide service one more time before I shut this show down.
Bill Payne Guide Service. Call me, Google me. I'm not going to tell you the number. I never remember numbers people are talking about, but I'm easy to find. I do trophy smallmouth trips in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Certain months of the year. I fish Allatoona more than anything. I live closer to Carter's, and I go to Carter's. I will go to other destinations, even to New York smallmouth fishing if somebody wants to do it.
That's right.
I've gone to a lot of other lakes, but some of my clients, I really do appreciate them because they like to go with me. And when they talk about some lakes, I say, look, there's better guides. There's people over there that know what's going on. You'll be better off going with them. But in spite of that, they go with me, and I really do thank them, and I appreciate them a whole lot.
Absolutely.
And he has a lot of return customers, and there's
Oh,
reason
yes.
for that.
I've talked to several people that have been on trips with Bill. Never heard a negative word about it.
No,
I always learn something. So I appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us again. And of course, Barday, I've been trying to get you on for 3 years.
You just didn't want me getting drunk and commenting on the.
Well, I was getting ready to say this. I do appreciate when you comment. I did notice though that after Georgia beat Alabama, you were quiet for about a year. You didn't comment on it near as much. And then after y'all beat Georgia, you started commenting a little more. What's up with that?
The same reason that Georgia didn't comment a whole lot when Alabama beat them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. But no, seriously, dude, I appreciate you coming up. I know.
Enjoy it.
You don't like the camera and all that. But,
Do not.
you do not, but you did a good job. Like that. And I appreciate you bringing your better half up to see us and all that, and for the deer jerky and all that stuff. So, guys, hey, listen, it's been a great show. You guys, if you're watching on YouTube, again, make sure you like and subscribe and click that notification bell so you get all the notifications anytime we drop another. We're going to do a lot of videos, but anytime we drop a podcast. But it's really cool. I feel very privileged not only for you guys watching and comment, making my job easier, but to get to meet people like Bill and Stephen, in this little journey we're doing. And I appreciate Tim, doing a good job in the back, pressing them buttons. It's not easy. And the way my mouth runs, keeping up with me throughout the show with cameras and all that. And Kevin, again, for feeding us again tonight and gracing us with your presence. And, of course, the question of the week. So, guys, we'll be back next week with another great show. If you're going to be on the water, hey, be safe, number one. And according to these two guys, go look for some stained water. We'll see you next week.